Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Under the Hood platform. Today, I am so excited to be here with my friends and colleagues, and we're hosting a special chat today with the 2022 Women in Science Incentive Prize winners. And the winners were actually chosen by the Story Exchange. And so the Story Exchange held an open competition in fall of 2022 to recognize the top innovative female scientists working on solutions to the most pressing environmental issues of our time. The 2022 competition actually focused on women that are leading efforts to improve air quality. Okay. So I have the pleasure today and the honor of moderating this discussion with the other winners. Dr. Kerry Kelly is a professor of chemical engineering at the University of Utah. Dr. Eva Pfannerstill is a postdoctoral researcher at UC Berkeley. Garima Raheja is a doctoral candidate at Columbia University. And absent with us today is another winner, Madeline Clough, who's a doctoral candidate at the University of Michigan. So I'm, of course, those of you who listen to my videos quite a bit, I'm a professor of civil and environmental engineering at UC Berkeley. So welcome. All right, so we'll start the discussion off with a pretty general question. And I'd like to ask the winners, what made you choose a career in air quality? And did you always know that this was going to be your career path? And so I'll start with Kerry.
Okay, great. And I guess before I start, I also wanted to mention and congratulate you, Sunni, because you are also one of the winners. So in case the viewers don't catch that. I actually worked as a research engineer here in Utah for some pretty well-known scientists who were trying to understand emissions from combustion sources. I got to do some super cool stuff, like get under an F-18 aircraft with a probe and like look at open detonations and try to figure out how are we going to take these measurements. It was super fun. And then eventually that project ended, as all good projects do. And then I started doing some other research on campus, but mostly I was working for other people as the lead, and that became a little less fun. And the scientists I was working for really encouraged me to go on and get my PhD on my own, which I did. I finally got my PhD in my 40s, which was a little of a different path. And then I've been really interested in air quality in our valley. I live in Salt Lake City, and we periodically have the worst air quality in the world. So we have a lot of interesting things to study. So that's what got me interested.
And did you know this is what you wanted to do? Did you foresee this in your
Well,
future?
certainly not when I started. I took rather a random path.
What about you, Ava?
Yeah, for me, it was also not something I envisioned, at least not, a long time ago. I think my short answer would be that I'm enthusiastic about this field is because it combines four things that I really like, which is scientific research, societal impact, connection to climate change, and what was the fourth one? And chemistry, of course, because I'm a chemist. And I think my path wiggled slowly into the direction of air quality. I was really interested in chemistry when I had it at high school, and I was at the same time interested in environmental issues, climate change, and so on. And I wanted to try and find a way to combine those two things. And so via a path that took me first to marine chemistry, I finally ended up in atmospheric chemistry, which was really my dream because I was also interested in doing field research. And so that's how I ended up here.
Awesome. What about Garima?
I grew up in New Delhi, India, which is one of the most polluted cities in the world. And air pollution was not just a problem that was like intellectual, it was a problem that was physical and kind of interacted, and impacted our lives every single day. My family moved to California when I was about 10 years old. And like within a few years, the wildfires started. And I just realized that it was a problem that was facing us, like, whether we're Indian American or American Indian, like it really like affects a lot of marginalized communities. The beauty of moving to the Silicon Valley, though, where there's so much progress and so much change happening so fast, was that I really saw the power of like data and technology to make solutions happen. I also did see, how that could cause harm. But coming to a place like Berkeley, where people were merging those two, was really inspiring. So I started working with Professor Ron Cohen at UC Berkeley in a project called Beacon, which kind of merged data science and air quality and worked with a lot of marginalized communities. And while I was at Berkeley, I also worked with another group called Beacon, which was an environmental consulting group essentially run by students. And it was really easy to, put those two together, because in one place I got to do really like meaningful and impactful scientific technical research. And another group, I was leading the way on putting those scientific practices into applications and like working with people developing bike lane advocacy. I got to do a lot of really cool work where I got to connect my science that I was doing in the BEA CO2 project into the BEACN Beacon project, which was, connecting science to advocacy, such as like people advocating for bike lanes, people kind of doing cradle to grave assessments of different projects, people, I work with an ice cream company that was really interested in like doing their environmental impact assessment, and we got to, even influence like their employment policy. So all that together, combined with like a really cool internship at NASA Ames, where I got to like work with the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, all of these and all the like amazing mentors who brought me into this field, just convinced me that my skills have a lot of place, and that, the work I'm passionate about can be solved using technical tools, and I can have a meaningful place in solving those problems.
Wow, that's super impressive. So I encourage anyone listening to go and look up these ladies' bios online. They actually do a lot of great things. And just to round out the discussion of what made us choose this path, I'll just say that I was interested in environmental conservation even in high school. I've already talked about my story quite a bit online. And I just appreciated the enthusiasm of my air quality professors as an undergrad, and that's how my story began. I did not know I would be a professor at Berkeley. No. 0% chance of me predicting that. Okay. And so I have a second question here, and I'd like to pose to the group. How do you think you are making a difference in your field for the benefit of society? And so I'll start in reverse, and I'll go and ask Garima.
I think that it's really important to consider how our work interacts with the communities that we're trying to help. A lot of times, I think science in general, or especially air quality science historically, has just been purely descriptive. We've described the problems, but a lot of marginalized communities don't need to be explained to that they are suffering more than other communities. And so, in my research and my theory of change, I work really hard to ensure that I'm going beyond just describing the problem into actually solving it. So that involves, doing capacity building with people who don't have access to these tools, like opening up barriers to access, and also, working with them over time to really develop their skills and develop like capacity so that they can actually solve the problems. I also like to do a lot of mentorship to bring other women, especially women of color, into this field. And it's amazing to see how much like interest and talent there is and how little support there can be often to do this kind of work. And then finally, I try to make sure that I am a long-term advocate of this work. I think it's very common for academics to parachute into communities, get what they want out of them, and then leave after they've gotten their paper. But I try really hard to, stay engaged with the work that I'm doing long-term, whether that, means finding different ways to stay involved, or just, giving the skills that I have over time. So I like to make a difference. I like to change things from within when I can, with working within academia, and then also work outside academia, work in policy spaces, work in like straight up direct mentorship spaces to try to change things from the outside as well.
Wow, super inspiring. Okay. And what about you, Eva?
So my last project that I did here in California involved flying with a small aircraft over Los Angeles and the Central Valley and mapping out air pollution sources. And that project was funded by the California Air Resources Board, which is also a regulatory agency. So by that cooperation, what I really like about this project is that our results are really taken into account when they make their assessments of which emission sources maybe need to be more regulated, or which measures could be taken by policy to improve air quality in those places. So that's one of the ways that I think I'm influencing how society gains from my research. And the other thing is that that's actually a next step that I want to do with my data, is to analyze those data in terms of socioeconomic differences in the communities and what concentrations they are experiencing of those volatile organic compounds that I measured, because a lot of work on environmental injustice in terms of air quality has been done on fine particles, PM2.5 and NOx, which are of course very important air pollutants, but some volatile organic compounds like benzene, for example, are carcinogenic, and there's not much work out there on how different communities are affected by that. And I hope I can fill a little bit of that gap with my data, and therefore also give those communities some tools to argument their cases.
Absolutely. Thank you. What about you, Kerry?
I'm really excited about working on projects where we are also not just informing people about what air quality is, moving beyond that. And I'll give you one example that we're really enthusiastic about right now, and that's in Utah. We are a big state with complex topography. That means we've got a lot of mountains and valleys, and many areas of our state are very sparsely populated. And these sparsely populated areas of the state have no air quality forecasts. So 17 out of 29 of our counties have no air quality forecasts, and very limited air quality measurements, and in some cases, no measurements. And so we started working with the athletic trainers in our state, because there are students participating in outdoor athletic activities, and they've got no idea what air quality is. They've got no idea how to make a decision on any kind of science. And there's a lot of uncertainty about low-cost sensors. And if they get one, what does that number mean? Is it accurate? So working with these communities in need, trying to get them the information they need, and partnering with athletic trainers, the High School Activities Association, and the health department to integrate measurements and guidelines and actionable guidelines that you can take. You can make decisions and protect student health. So that's one idea that I'm very excited about right now that we're working on.
That's super interesting, as is everything that all of you just said. I'm very inspired. And so just to round out that question, I think my work in community advocacy, air quality modeling, and exposure monitoring will hopefully benefit to society by empowering or just advocating and facilitating communities to advocate for themselves and for the protection of their air quality. And hopefully we'll get some policy changes going so that some of these benefits can be state, locally, or federally regulated. And last but not least, I'll pose a third and final question, and that is, what advice would you give any young lady that is listening, or senior lady that's in the process of choosing a major or a career path, or even switching their career path, and particularly those that may want to study air quality? So what's that advice? And I'll start with Garima again.
Yeah, I'll give maybe two pieces of advice. The first one is that your voice matters, and it matters a lot. Women, especially women of color and young women, are very underrepresented in this field. And often our voices can make a huge difference, especially when the research that's being done is being done on or with our communities. Sometimes I'm the only young woman of color in like a meeting room, and I have to remind people that suggesting a cook stove implementation that involves, turning coals over in the middle of the night is going to disproportionately impact women, and that, might cause more harm than it causes good. And small things like that. So I think the voices of women, especially women of color, matter a lot, and it is really vital to have those. And so, the work that you will do will be very beneficial to your own community. And the second piece of advice I'll give is that you are not alone. It might feel really isolating to be the only person of color, or the only woman, or the only young person in a meeting room trying to like push for social change. But I have been so lucky to have so many amazing mentors who have taken time out of their very busy schedules. Like Sunni, you've been a great mentor. Bianca D'Souza, for example, in Denver, Paul V. Pont from the Health Effects Institute in Massachusetts. People have taken out so much time to mentor me, to coach me through, things that I'm going through, like academic challenges that I've faced, like trying to decide like a career path. And I'm just so lucky to be surrounded by so many amazing people that you know, I think that it's a great community, and that women who are interested in doing this work, you know, can be part of a bigger community doing this. And people are just so excited to help and so excited to bring new folks into the fold that um, you should not have to feel alone while doing this work.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much for that perspective. What about you, Kerry?
I guess I would give maybe also two pieces of advice building on the previous comments. So one is, don't be afraid to talk to a professor if you're interested. We're often dying to get students to help work in our research groups. As an undergraduate, there are often many ways to fund your research or your participation in the groups. So don't be shy at all about reaching out to a professor who's studying air quality, or really any field you might be interested in, or even if you want to try it out. That's great. And if you try it out and it's not for you, that's awesome. That's part of being a student, is to figure out your place. The other thing I will say is, no matter what you do, try to pick up useful skills along the way. I have actually been a bike courier in Munich, Germany, and a bartender as part of in my lifetime. And in each of those, I picked up some unique skills that have served me along the way. So you never know where you're going to pick up skills that might come in handy later. So don't be embarrassed or ashamed if you have a non-traditional or unusual resume. Like I said, you may find those skills useful.
Awesome. And Eva.
Yeah, the advice that I want to give is that many roads lead to Rome, so that you can end up in the field of air quality coming from many different like majors or fields of study. So I have worked with, so I'm a chemist myself. I've worked with physicists, engineers, computer scientists, geographers, sociologists, whatever. There's like really almost any field can end up working on air quality. And you just have to find a research group that kind of can make use of your skills and that tries to make use of these kind of skill sets to answer questions. And yeah, of course, as Kerry said, and then you just need to ask a professor, and very often they are happy to have somebody who is excited about trying out this field of research and doing a little research in their group.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for those wonderful points of advice. And I'll just add in, if I had to give advice to young ladies, senior ladies coming up, is that you're enough. Okay. You're wonderful, and you're going to be great in this field. And we need your perspective. We need diverse perspectives. We need different perspectives, because air quality isn't an issue that's going to go away quickly without the brightest minds around the table. So we look forward to seeing you in our classrooms, in the board, on the advisory group board. We look forward to seeing you. And so that really wraps up our Women in Science Air Quality Q&A. And we hope that our listeners are inspired to pursue a career in air quality. This is a really exciting field of Earth exploration, policy advocacy, and even community engagement. And you can really find fulfillment across many disciplines and subdisciplines in air quality. So with that, I wish you the best along your STEM journey. Never give up on your dreams, and we'll catch you in the next video.